Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, and thank you for watching.
For the past few weeks, Central Square has played host to public property as that we have a Tragedy of the Commons issue saying Happy Holidays, Keene.
Voluntary interactions where individuals are free to act so long as they don't initiate force.
This morning, we gather to remember Sergeant Tom Ball.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Johnny Ray.
And I'm Allie Havens. Starting out tonight, Free Keene TV isn't the only news outlet waiting for answers surrounding the police shooting of Julio Angel DeJesus.
The Boston Herald had an article this past Friday raising some questions about the incident. Questions left unanswered include whether or not DeJesus was armed and other details of the fatal shooting. Anytime the state uses lethal force, the entire incident ought to be scrutinized.
Following Jason Talley's dismissed charges, his legal representative, Bradley Jardis, made a final request of the state.
Bradley asked that Jason's camera be returned to him. The state denied this motion, and while Jason Talley is not being charged with anything, the state feels the need to retain his property.
Free Keene TV producer James Schlesinger and I report on the recent tactic of city officials used against political dissidents. This is Allie Havens reporting for Free Keene TV. I'm standing here in front of Ashwellet Park, one of the few places Ian Freeman is still allowed to be. He and others have been issued no trespassing orders for multiple places around town. So I'm sitting here with Ian Freeman from freekeene.com. Where did this all start? When was the first incident?
I guess the first one would be at the jail back in 2010 when we had the Trespassive 12. Where a dozen folks were arrested, and most of us hadn't been told we had to leave. So that would have been the first time we were banned for a year at that time. So it goes back to then. And
where all have you been banned?
Currently, I'm banned, excluding the jail, because I'm no longer banned from the jail, that year's up. I'm currently banned from Monadnock Regional High School, from all Keene School District properties, including the administrative building, from at 6 a.m. or 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night, and then also all New Hampshire liquor store properties, the Cheshire Superior Courthouse, the entire property, so including the parking lot.
Constantly asking them questions and trying to intimidate them.
Whoa, intimidation.
It's like getting broader and broader.
Get bigger, okay? So I'm just telling you guys, just keep your distance, let them. They're not working anymore.
Are you saying asking questions is intimidating?
They're not working anymore.
So if I ask someone a question...
Part of the statute is how you feel. If you feel fearful for your life,
well, in that case, I felt intimidated and fearful of my life yesterday when Tebow went in a rage and drugged people out of a courtroom by handcuffs. Am I allowed to bring this camera inside?
No.
So what do you expect me to do when I need to ask one of these people a question about what they did?
Get approved
by who?
Get in. The court system.
By the same people I want to ask questions. I have every intention of, as a member of the press, asking a public official about actions they did.
I understand that.
In the course of their duty. That is my right.
We will keep that in mind, okay?
Also, the most recently, let's see, in addition, I'm going to lose track of them all. There's another one that I just got at Keene State College as well for a year. So some of those are forever, and some of those are just for a year.
So who have been the complaining parties in these orders? I assume it's different people in different orders, and what are they complaining about?
The funny thing is, a lot of the orders don't actually specify anything about reasons. There's only one of them that actually mentions the reason for the ban, and that is the Cheshire Superior Courthouse, where they claim that I'm banned for persistent harassment. We presume, because during the holiday season we were singing some chronic carols from the Shire Choir out in the parking lot, and video recording and asking questions of the bureaucrats as they were coming and going to work.
We're here at the Cheshire Superior Court to do some chronic caroling.
Go smoke your weed somewhere else. Get out of here.
Decent folks living right.
You guys have to leave.
So we presume that's what they're intending to ban us for, because it happened right around that time, but persistent harassment.
The four of you are due to your persistent harassment of court personnel.
Harassment?
You are prohibited from entering onto or remaining on county property here at 12 Court Street.
You're saying if I want to come watch a public trial, I have to call you and ask permission first?
Correct.
And the others don't specify anything, any reasons. It doesn't appear officially on the order, but we can speculate as to the reasons. The Keene State College is because I was there with a megaphone and previously had been there with flyers. They had threatened me when I was there with flyers, saying that not even students are allowed to pass out flyers on their own campus.
To be issued a no trespassing order, I would assume that you would have to be harassing someone or getting in someone's way or damaging property of some kind, and in what instances has that occurred?
None. There's no evidence of any victims or anything like that. This is just targeting people because of a certain viewpoint, a political stance, if you will, that the people in the seats of power don't much care for. But everything's legal until they get beaten down by their own system. So they can ban whoever they want from wherever they want, and unless I have the resources, and I personally don't, nor do I want to allocate them in this way, but to spend a bunch of time and money going through their court system to try to get their Supreme Court to basically say, hey, you can't do this stuff.
So you haven't gone through the process of challenging any of these orders, or have you found your own way to challenge them?
I am, there's a couple folks that are kind of helping out behind the scenes. There's a former law enforcement officer who is kind of helping maybe get some sort of a hearing from the Liquor Commission. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't expect it to go anywhere. But also there is an attorney who's interested specifically in the college case. I haven't really had a chance to tell him about the rest of it. Well, I've already been arrested for trespassing at the courthouse when I attempted to go and just simply go to probate court. I had some business with the court, and I actually had official court papers in my hands as I walked in. And there's a video of this at freekeene.com.
I'm here on official business, and I contacted...
Come on, guys.
Mike, hang on just 1 second. I talked to Mike last...
At least a slight common courtesy.
The sheriff. He says to me, the sheriff's going to come out and talk to you. He never came out. Well, I wasn't there, and then I saw you a few days later, and I said, hey, I never heard from him. I never heard from him, and then you said, I said, well, would you put him in touch with me? And you said you would. He never called me. He's got my number. Hey, do I have to come with you? Or
yes, you are calling right now. It's under arrest.
You guys are ridiculous.
But, so I've already been arrested for trespassing, currently facing 21 months in jail as a result of that. So at this time, I really can't afford to do any further civil disobedience, or it'll just make things a lot worse.
All right, well, thanks for being with us today, Ian. During my investigation, I sat down with a couple of the activists who've been issued these no trespassing orders to find out what they think of the orders, why they were issued, and what can be done about it. So I'm sitting here with Jason Talley from Talley TV, and he's been issued no trespassing orders for Superior Court and the New Hampshire liquor stores.
That's right.
When were they given to you?
I just received the liquor store order recently, I would say within the past couple of weeks, but that, I don't even know why that is. I don't do business with the liquor store. I'm boycotting them.
Somebody had the brilliant idea of having a demonstration here, pointing out the irony, the hypocrisy of the state controlling the liquor business here in New Hampshire, while at the same time outlawing other drugs, such as marijuana.
It's state-run. I have sung in liquor stores in protest against the state of New Hampshire's war on drugs, war on peaceful people against drugs. Specifically, somebody they currently have in one of their cages, Nurse Patricia Smith.
I'm Patricia Smith, and my trial starts today.
Don't you want to help me? Tell me what to do. Help me find a way.
What are you on trial for?
Growing marijuana.
Are you a peaceful person? Have you ever hurt anybody?
I'm a nurse. I worked in RN all my life.
I figure if the state of New Hampshire does that, and the state of New Hampshire owns the liquor store, then if I can peacefully protest with a song, I'm not doing anything nearly as bad as what the state did to that poor woman. Why do they ban me? They certainly didn't like my message.
You were also banned from Superior Court. What was that about?
I have been going to courthouses to report on matters. One of the Supreme Court justices for the New Hampshire Supreme Court said that the courts are one of the least understood branches of government, the judicial branch. And so not only have I been arrested for having a camera in their facilities, but there's been court orders tightening up the restrictions on what can be covered inside their buildings. So as a protest, people went outside and they sang songs. The government hasn't really explained why they gave me the trespassing order. It could have been for some of my reporting, but it might have been related to the singing as well.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's Jason Talley from Talley TV. Thanks for being with us, Talley.
No problem.
I'm joined here by Pete Ayer from copblock.org. His no trespassing order from Superior Court in Keene, New Hampshire. What happened that day?
Well, I went out to do some outreach with some friends, and almost immediately I was approached by a couple individuals wearing badges and was told that I would be arrested for trespass if I didn't leave the parking lot. And initially I questioned, what have I done? And I was told they weren't going to answer any questions and to quit pushing the envelope.
Morning, guys. How you guys?
Don't go in the parking lot, okay? Pushing the envelope. You're not allowed in here serving the pamphlets and stuff, okay?
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you right now, you're not going to.
Well, is the
Okay.
parking lot?
Where? What?
Is the parking lot public property?
Well, when I tell you that you can't be in there, you're not allowed in there anymore, okay?
Well, do you work for me or do I work for you?
I work for the county, okay?
And I'm asking you,
I'm
is
telling
this
you now,
public property?
you're hereby being noticed that if you come in here, you'll be trespassing and arrested.
If
okay?
I walk on the parking lot?
Yes.
You're gonna put me in a cage for taking a step on
Yep.
public property?
Yep.
Why is that? Is this fascist USS,
No, it's not.
USSA right now?
I'm letting you know, okay?
And I said, so you're going to arrest me if you're going to put me in a cage if I take one step onto a public property? And I was told, yep. And I said, so does that apply to anybody today or just myself? And they just, went inside, said, we're not going to answer your questions, and it was very confrontational.
Excellent. Pete Ayer, everyone, from copblock.org. I'm here with Darryl Perry. Where are you from, Darryl?
Originally from Birmingham, Alabama. Most recently lived in San Antonio, Texas before coming up to the Shire.
Recently, since you've been in the Shire, Keene State College issued a no trespassing order to you and Ian Freeman. Why were you given this order?
It was my first time on campus. I had not even been on campus more than 15 minutes at the most.
Jason Short has pulled us over, is preparing trespass orders against Darryl and myself for the college.
So are we banned forever? Just for a year?
You have to call the director.
Actually, I've got a few different no trespasses that are forever.
Well, I heard.
Yeah. Is that funny to you? Because is that not supposed to be that way?
Well, I guess different places have different ways.
I see.
Was never given a warning to leave campus, was never asked to leave campus by any campus official or by Keene PD. And I am banned for 1 year from ever going to the campus of Keene State College.
Because of your association with a man with a bullhorn.
That is my assumption. I was never actually told that, and it's not in writing on the no trespass order that I was given.
All right. I'm here with Kelly Voluntaries from naturalbornanarchist.com. So, Kelly, you have been issued no trespassing orders for which places?
For the Cheshire County Superior Court, for the Monadnock High School in Swansea, and for the entire Keene School District.
The Superior Court no trespassing order, what was the situation like there? What were you doing, and when were you issued the order?
Back in December, I was arrested for not standing up for Judge Arnold in court. I was arrested along with Jason Talley. That afternoon of our arrest, Adamo Freeman, Ian Freeman, and several other activists went to the courthouse and started asking the bureaucrats questions as they left, and recording them and singing peace carols.
Just asking, who have I harassed here?
That have left here and your stupid singing that you're
when you tell somebody
Singing
they
stupid.
somebody else.
Thank you for that opinion. I appreciate that. As an elected official, I don't appreciate this attitude, and I don't appreciate your demeanor, and I don't appreciate the threats.
You're criminal trespassing, so you have to leave.
I don't appreciate you
understand
getting up in my...
We went back there several times over the holidays to sing peace carols and to just welcome the bureaucrats to work and, ask how they felt about some of the things that were going on in the court. I think it was right around the 1st of January when we received no trespass orders for the whole Cheshire County Superior Court building.
Who gave you this order?
It was the sheriff, Richard Foote of Cheshire.
So he gave you an order saying you have to ask me if you would like to come onto this property again?
Yes, which is essentially the executive branch of government banning me from the judicial branch of government, which is completely unconstitutional.
What was your intention in doing this activism?
I simply wanted to reach out to some of the people that worked there at the courthouse and to, get them to think about, their job, their actions.
Are you considering legal action?
I am considering legal action. I've looked into filing a federal lawsuit against the Cheshire County Sheriff's Department.
Do you think this is going to be a pervasive tactic used by the city to try to squelch free speech?
Well, considering the Cheshire County Superior Courthouse is one of 3 places public places that I've been banned from, yeah, I do. I think it is a tactic, and I think they're trying to make us go away, but I'm not going anywhere, so.
What do you think about this issue? Do you think the activists advocating for an unpopular message should be banned from certain public property? Do you think that there should be limits to freedom of speech? Send your comments to tv@freekeene.com. This is Allie Havens with FKTV Reports.
For me, this situation is just indicative of, again, this arbitrary criminal injustices.
More people need to speak up.
This next video speaks to the issue of the commons, and more specifically, the viewpoint that capitalism is bad for wildlife and conservation.
This video comes from the Competitive Enterprise Institute.
One of the things that made a lot of people think that America and the free enterprise system and private property caused environmental problems was the fact that the vast wildlife herds, and bounty of flocks of birds, and big herds of buffalo and elk and deer, and the rivers that were just choked thick with salmon and other anadromous fish when the first colonists arrived in the United States. And then to see over 200 years, to see most of these species, many of these species at least, vanish or have their populations reduced into teeny numbers, gave the idea that capitalism was the source of these problems. But if you look carefully at what happened, it's just the opposite of that. When the first colonists arrived in America, there were perhaps as many as 100 million buffalo roaming across the plains of the United States and even coming east as far as Washington, D.C. By the 1900s, most of the buffalo had just about disappeared. They came very, very close to going extinct. And at the same time, herds of cattle began to increase across the country. And now there are as much as 100 million head of cattle in the United States. Now, what can you learn from that? Wild species were essentially unowned. Nobody owned them, and there was little way initially for people to own them. But the cattle were owned by people, and so people took care of them and made sure that they multiplied and that there was a bounty of them able to feed the people and supply their needs. And this is one of the things that you learn about wildlife. When the United States created its own wildlife law, one of the things they did, which was rather unique, they decided they were going to reject the wildlife systems that had been used in Europe. And in those systems, the law essentially said that wildlife belongs to the landowner on whose land it occurs. One of the things that they decided in this country was that we're overthrowing the old world. We're overthrowing the old system. We think that wildlife should belong to everybody. And one of the things that happened, American wildlife populations began to fall as if hit by a plague. Since it was treated as an open commons, everybody had a strong incentive to go out and get all the wildlife they could before somebody else did. And this led to the overuse of all the wildlife. One of the things that was very common in the United States was salmon coming up all the streams from on down through Maine and New Hampshire and Massachusetts. There was such a mass of salmon that would migrate up the rivers to spawn at various times of the year, that these salmon were harvested in vast numbers and fed to people continuously. Now what happened, of course, with everybody harvesting these salmon year after year after year, nobody owning them, nobody having any incentive to take care of them or take care of the habitat they were in. The rivers were also used as sewers to dump all kinds of waste in. Logs were floated down all these rivers. It was the easiest way to get logs from a forest down to the coast where there would be sawmills. And all these various uses began to destroy the quality of the water, and the salmon began to disappear. But one of the interesting things, in England and in Iceland and in parts of Norway, the landowners actually own the exclusive right to fish along various streams. Because the salmon was a very valuable resource, they took very good care of this. They made sure that people didn't come in and pollute and that people didn't come in and overfish. And they set the regulations. They would all band together, all these different landowners, and create an association. And then if they found somebody that was dumping pollutants into the water, that was destroying the quality of water, that was harming the salmon, the association as a whole would go to court and sue, first to get an injunction to force whoever was doing the polluting or harming the stream and the salmon to stop doing the harm they was doing, and then also to collect damages. And to this day, they still have thriving salmon populations in those countries. But you look at the eastern United States and even up into some of the maritime provinces, and the salmon populations have disappeared. Essentially, there are next to no salmon left on the Atlantic coast of the United States. And again, this was a classic example of the tragedy of the commons, and the way to resolve that is to find a way to allow ownership. I mean, the basic problem that we have in this country is that we still have this belief that it's ownership of something that causes the problems, or utilization of something that causes the problems, and that's not so at all. And the problem has been the lack of property rights, the lack of ownership, that has caused our wildlife to disappear, while wildlife in other countries, particularly in Britain and parts of Europe, is thriving under a system of ownership and utilization.
It is no secret that Free Keene TV prefers Ron Paul over the other candidates for president. And for our final editorial segment, we have another video from Ben Swann's reality check.
Ben takes a look at the delegate situation and how Ron Paul is meeting resistance on all levels, regardless of logic and rationality.
So now that we are down to 2 GOP candidates, why is there so much infighting still taking place in those GOP caucuses? Doesn't Romney pretty much have the nomination now? Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
And then there were 2. Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney and Texas Congressman Ron Paul are the only 2 candidates still vying for the Republican nomination. Tonight I'm going to show you 2 things. More of the fighting over delegates in Washington State, and explain why that fighting is intensifying. Let's start in King County, Washington. The state of Washington has been holding its delegate caucuses as they're sending delegates on to the state convention, which will be held May 31st through June 2nd. Now, in order to choose those delegates, Washington is holding these delegate caucuses. And here's what happened in the King County 37th District Caucus over the weekend. The GOP representative is Lori Sotelo. Sotelo conducts the business of the caucus by holding a floor vote for a caucus chairman, and it happens correctly according to the rules. The problems start when a woman named Tamara Smilanich is voted in as caucus chairman. Sotelo begins to argue that because Tamara is a known Ron Paul supporter, the caucus cannot continue. Listen.
Ron Paul campaign does not have authority to rent this room. They have not provided insurance for this building. And Ron Paul campaign is Cameron Smilanich is a member of the Ron Paul campaign. And you do not.
She's not paid by the Ron Paul campaign.
And you do not have authority to run the meeting in this building. You will have 10 minutes before this building must be vacated.
To be clear on what is being said here, Sotelo claims that Smilanich is a Ron Paul operative. And therefore, in order for the caucus to continue, the Ron Paul campaign would have to pay for the insurance on the building and pay to rent the venue, which of course doesn't make sense at all. Nevertheless.
What I tried to explain to Tamara, what I explained to the Ron Paul campaign and their national campaign, and what I explained to Tamara in private, is that when a campaign, a political campaign, takes over a caucus, they are now the national campaign responsible for providing insurance, providing balloting, providing the liability for anything that goes on in this building.
The majority of people in the room begin to argue with Sotelo, asking what being elected caucus chair has to do with insurance liability. And then they even ask where the rule can be found in the list of Washington State GOP rules.
Can I request that the chair of the county party show us in the rules where it says that if a operative or not operative of any particular campaign gets elected to the chair position, then that campaign is then required to pay for the insurance and pay the rent. Where's that in the rules?
And once again, the rules are not being followed. So the caucus is actually moved outside, where Emily Rinsink, who took much of that video, tells me that 11 delegates were voted on.
There were 11 total, and we got all 11 delegates for Ron Paul. I feel like there's this impression of Ron Paul supporters that we're here just to be disruptive and to infiltrate the party, and I can only speak for myself, but that's not what it's about. We want to get involved. I'm genuinely a conservative, and I just want to get involved in the Republican Party.
So why is there such a fight in the Republican Party? Isn't it really all over? Didn't Romney already pretty much lock up the nomination? Well, actually, no. And this is what I've been telling you for months now. At its state convention, Washington will select 43 delegates to the RNC. Now, according to the delegate count on RealClearPolitics.com, in the state of Washington, Mitt Romney has 25 of those delegates already in his corner. Ron Paul has 8. But that's not true, because in the state of Washington, none of those delegates have been selected. Another example, the state of Iowa, which will send 28 delegates to the RNC. Iowa, Real Clear Politics says Romney has 6, Santorum 7, and Paul has 1. But it's not true. Actually, in Iowa, half of the delegates were just selected over the weekend. 13 people who will choose 13 delegates. And now we know 13 slots, Ron Paul delegates. The other 10, we don't know yet. One more for you. The state of Minnesota, which will send 40 delegates on to Tampa. In Minnesota, half of the delegates are called congressional district delegates. The other half at-large delegates. Well, the state of Minnesota voted over the weekend for the congressional district delegates, and here's what we know. 20 of the 24 went to Ron Paul. The other 13 will be voted on May 18th and 19th. And that's what you need to know. A month ago, not one media source other than Reality Check was correctly counting delegates. Therefore, you had no idea that Ron Paul or any other candidate could still win Minnesota or Iowa. Many people thought it was a done deal. And yet, it just happened. And that's why the fight in the Republican ranks is not over. Every state with unbound delegates is now a battleground for those delegates. And that is Reality Check.
If you would like to make your voice heard on the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page.
So I guess Ron Paul's doing better than the establishment expected. Yeah,
well, I read an article the other day from one of the biased sources that I always read, and this guy seemed to be, he said it was likely that Ron Paul would win a brokered convention. I don't know about that.
I wonder what would happen if he ran as a third party. But you get lots of support that way too.
Yeah. That'll be. I hope it'll be exciting. These are very interesting times.
They are.
Thank you for watching. As always, send any emails to tv@freekeene.com.
We would like to read some of your editorials and opinions, so please send them to us. I'm Allie Havens.
And I'm Johnny Ray, wishing you happiness and peace.